Proten Live is live. Welcome, welcome.
I,
Hello, world. Hello, Africa. Hello, Nigeria. Hello, the HR community. My name is Ronald Adimoha, and I am Communications Manager here at Proten International. You're welcome to Proten Live. Proten Live is our flagship live session for where we talk all things HR. We invite leading practitioners and industry leaders really to talk about some burdening and challenging and topical issues in the HR industry. Um, I won't be doing today's show alone. I have with me a very resourceful and popular individual and leader in the HR industry. And as much as he might not want to admit, he's also a tech bro because when you work for a tech company, you're either a tech bro or a tech sis. So permit me to introduce um, an individual who is an HR practitioner, a writer. I think you sing as well, right?
no, please.
Okay, well, drum roll. Welcome, Faith Emmanuel. Faith Emmanuel
I,
is Faith Emmanuel is the a people lead for people and culture at Cowrie Wise. If you are into Ajo and money savings, you should know Cowrie Wise. So we have here with us HR manager from Cowrie Wise, lead for people and culture at Cowrie Wise. How are you feeling today, Faith?
well, aside the sound of thunder and lightning,
Yes,
I
it's a
feel
constant
good.
sound, and we can't do without it right now.
Right. I
Awesome,
understand.
awesome. Awesome. So, myself and Faith will be digging into something very interesting and really prime for the moment, right? We're talking remote work. Now, COVID-19 has thrown everyone, off their feet. The world, at some point, the world went dark for some time. And this transition and this disruption affected several industries. And as we have seen now, it has forced many companies and many businesses and corporate organizations to adopt remote work strategies. Remote work strategies include work models that involve people working from remote locations, off-site locations, whether it's from your home, from a cafeteria, from a business center, from wherever that is not your regular office location. But with that disruption and change has come several challenges around employee morale, employee motivation, and as we would like to
Infrastructural
discuss today,
challenges.
infrastructural challenges, and as we'd like to discuss today as well, employee productivity. Every business and HR manager is concerned about employee productivity, and so with me on the show, Faith and I will be talking about how HR managers can boost their employees productivity while they work remote or adopt hybrid work models. So first of all, Faith, what do you think about the adoption of remote work models? Do you think it's something that are you for it, or do you think you would adopt it only because the world is moving in that direction?
Oh well, thank you everyone for joining from wherever you are joining. My name is Emmanuel once again. Yeah, I mean, even if I had said I was against it, it has come to stay, and that's the first thing that we have to
Of
realize.
course.
So, either you're for remote work or against remote work, I think
Yeah,
it has come to stay.
yeah.
I am a personal fan of an hybrid structure, a structure that enables people work from
Hmm.
home or wherever they choose to work from, but also encourages maybe a day or two of working on site. The reason is because while remote work saves a lot of stress, if you're a Lagosian or if you stay in an urban city like Lagos, maybe
Yeah.
Pretoria, for example, you would, understand that remote work saves traffic, travel time, the mental exhaustion that comes with that, either you have your own ride or not. But I've also discovered as an HR professional that personal interaction is very pivotal to performance and productivity. And so I'm not an
Personal
100% remote
interaction.
advocate. Yes, personal interaction, contributes immensely to achieving your different goals and objectives. So yeah, I prefer an hybrid structure to a combination to a strictly remote structure.
Yeah,
That's my
it's
stance.
good that you actually mentioned personal interaction. It's good that you mentioned personal interaction because I personally, if you're also a fan of a hybrid model, I mean, during the full on lockdown period, it got to a point where it got disorienting for me, mentally disorienting. Because you're interacting with technology, you're interacting with infrastructure, you're interacting with internet, you're interacting with computers and devices really, and not really much time to interact with real
People,
individuals. The best,
yeah,
the best, the best personal interaction you had with your colleagues was through Zoom.
yeah,
Zoom was
right.
everything, and that you know that as many research must have shown actually threw a lot of people into mental disorientation at some point.
Yeah, I agree.
So would you then say that personal interaction is the most important difference that should I say
That
the
enhances
icebreaker,
remote work. Okay.
the icebreaker for why companies or HR managers should lean more towards a hybrid structure than a full remote structure. I mean, apart from personal interaction, are there other factors that you consider major reasons for why they should lean towards hybrid as against full remote?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, this is my subjective point of view. Aside personal interaction, yeah, I mean, I need to put that because I also know that some people are pro remote and for their obvious reasons,
Yeah,
and it doesn't even mean that pro remote is not scalable. But
yeah,
aside personal interaction, there is some sort of cohesion and maybe the word is acceleration. There's a way that, for example, yeah, I work in the tech space, and so I know as much as the business as I know about the HR. There's a way that, for example, when my developers come in, the product designer can go and sit with the backend developer and meet the content writer to write copies, and a landing page comes to life in 2 days. Unlike when it's remote and they have to send mails to and fro or send Slack messages and
yeah,
all. So there's a speed of execution that also come, when you're working on site and all. But since we are actually discussing remote work today, maybe we can now talk about what systems and structure can we put in place to ensure that, the remote work is also almost as effective as working physically. Then you probably talk about clear KPIs, exact time of delivery, who is your stakeholder, things like that. I think as we continue, would tilt towards talking about how to actually make remote work productive. Yeah,
yeah.
remote work.
How to make
Yeah,
remote work work.
exactly, exactly.
We need to do something around that. The HR committee needs to actually do something around that. How to make remote work.
Yeah, I understand.
It's a burning conversation. Um, yeah. So thank you for that breakdown. Actually, I mean, you have now shed some light into why it's not just personal interaction. There's speed of work, efficiency, productivity. That should count for why we shouldn't just go with the mantra or move with the wind of change,
Wave.
which is remote,
Yes,
or the wave, which is remote work, but actually try to adopt remote work in such a way that it's a win-win it's a win-win for the
everybody.
employees and also a win for the employers. Now,
Yeah.
um, talking about efficiency, right? We have seen that there have been cases of unproductivity, employee unproductivity during remote work, and a lot of challenges and factors have been alluded to this fact. So, my question for you would be: what would you say, or present the causes for unproductivity, the major causes for unproductivity among employees while they're working remotely?
Oh, okay. That's an interesting question to ask. Maybe a quick opening line would be that for those that work remotely, either you're an employee or a manager, an HR manager, because as an HR manager, you're also an employee, right?
You're also
I think
employee.
something I would want you to take away is that it's important that you pay attention to what takes your attention, right? It is
Oh,
important
oh, oh, oh.
that you pay attention to what takes your
Key
attention.
word there.
So putting the challenges into boxes, I probably say people related challenges, infrastructure related challenges, and maybe systemic. So I'll break it down. People is people, or people are people. People is the first point I made when I was talking about how physical things get faster, done faster physically. Infrastructure will be things like electricity, like internet. I don't know if you've had to speak with a major stakeholder and MTN decide to show you that they are the boss.
Oh, it's like your
Or
village people coming for you right in the middle of a major deal.
exactly, or Glo decide to tell you they
Yeah.
rule the world. So things like that. Electricity, yeah, there was a time that I think sometime last year our transformer blew. Man, it was not a nice period at all, because I had to run the generator between work hours every day. Things like that are infrastructural. Then
Yeah.
systemic challenge is slightly a mix of personal and infrastructural. So systemic is something like, now that we are remote, who do I report to? If, for example, I'm a product designer and I need a front end guy to write my code, or I need a back end guy to put in something for me. Do I report directly to the CTO? Do I report to maybe the most senior developer? Do I report to the product manager? Things like line of reporting, like
Line of reporting.
hierarchy, things like that are, the third aspect that I think that we can categorize. So three major challenges. I've mentioned the people part, the infrastructural part, and the systemic part.
And the
Yeah.
systemic part.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Personally, I think that I would relate, more closely to the infrastructural part. There are several infrastructural challenges in Nigeria that inhibits, the efficient or smooth running of remote work. I mean, compared to our countries abroad where there's faster internet. I mean, they're talking 5G. Some countries are even talking 7G, and we're still grappling with 4G here, and some
4G.
countries still using 3G. And you see that many of these remote tools and infrastructural tools, that aid remote work, rely heavily on internet usage. So
Yeah.
personally, I relate more closely to infrastructural challenges.
As a
Um,
typical Nigerian would.
you're trying to turn in a task to beat a deadline, and then your internet just goes off right at the nick of time, and it
Hopefully,
becomes
your system is not on 4%.
and your system is not on focus. We've not even started talking about PHCN. Please don't get me started with PHCN. That
Right.
one is a major issue. And then when your village people, in quotes, now really sit on your case, your generator will cuts or your generator goes bad.
I can imagine.
Terrible.
Yeah.
And so we have seen these challenges really play out in impacting the work that remote workers do and preventing remote workers from actually doing the work which they're expected to do. And so we have talked about these challenges, right? Essentially, I also think we should talk about how we can
Solutions.
mitigate these challenges. So you mentioned the people factor, which really deals around the employee and then the employer, right? How they relate, their relationship in ensuring that remote work works. You've also talked about the infrastructural challenges, how infrastructural challenges, internal and external, affect or impact the efficiency of work. And then you've also talked about the systemic challenges, line of reporting, and the
Things
KPIs,
like that.
communication, and things like that. Now, can we see a common thread in how we can profile solutions that will solve each of those categories of challenges? Do you think that we can, that we can recommend tips and solutions? What tips and solutions can you recommend that will solve each of those categories or groupings of challenges?
Yeah, thank you very much. Very interesting question to ask again. I believe that, as we have challenges, we solve them. They say Nigeria has an hustling spirit. And, I just probably share practical things that I've worked at Carry-wise. I've worked at a couple of companies that I know and stuff. So, okay, to start with, from infrastructure, when unique situations require unique solutions, right? And I'm going to be sharing some things that I found really amazing. I remembered, I won't mention, but I know a multinational that paid for their employees to go to the nearest workstation. So I know there are a lot of workstations in Lagos, for example. I don't know if it's obtainable at different urban cities. So, for example, I know Maryland workstation. I know that there is a weekly plan, the monthly plan, and all. And then if you're working from a workstation, you do not have an internet challenge, and you do not have a generator or a power challenge
Yeah,
because it's a
all of
workstation.
that is sorted.
Exactly. So, this organization revised their remuneration and then they now have workstation allowance allocated.
Workstation.
That straight up solved, an infrastructural challenge.
Sort of
For
solves the
some
infrastructural challenge.
Exactly. For some people, it's economical. I know an organization that asked their employees to come to work to carry their work station at work home. So maybe they have a chair and maybe a standing desk that they used to work in the office before the COVID outbreak. They actually came to office to carry that chair, that standing desk. Some people had system table, system shelf, things that ensure that their economy, is optimally utilized so that they don't get fatigued because they are sitting on maybe the wooden chair they have at home or the cushion chair they have at
Yeah,
home.
yeah,
I know people that carried their monitors home, so that they were able to use their second screen. I know people that their organizations had to buy a second screen for them. Innovative things like this. We think they are minor. You're thinking, why would chair affect my employees' productivity? But say you're a
sure.
customer experience person and you sit on, a chair that is not economically optimized, and then after 2 hours, your back is paining you or your neck is straining you. The next day, you can call in sick because you have a neck pain or a back pain, and
Yes,
that in a way dips productivity, right? So
yeah,
little things like this spoils productivity. In terms of people interaction, having a clear line of reporting and having a clear KPI, as well as expected date of delivery, but not the pregnancy one, also helps accelerate productivity, right? So, for example, in the tech space, we say, oh, we want to launch this feature by 30th of July. The CEO does not care if you guys meet up at an hotel, book a room, and all of you work overnight, or you decide to do video. All that matters is that you get work done. And maybe this is also a message to HR managers because guys are working remotely. You can't expect them to switch on their Skype 8 to 5 to confirm that they are working. So, for example, a practical illustration: if you're a Nigerian young adult or maybe late teenager, a Gen Z, 1920, that lives with his mom and his dad, or her mom and her dad, she probably spends the money doing domestic chores, right? So you don't expect that person to be maybe productive between
yeah,
7 and 10 in the morning. And those are things that HR have to now start thinking beyond. Oh, what's obtainable? Are you staying at home? Are you staying with your stakeholders? Oh, what's your morning like? Are you a morning person? Are you an evening person? I once worked with someone who gets everything done between 8 p.m. and 4 a.m. Right? So you can't say for that kind of employee
wow,
now, yeah, because she's nocturnal. So for that kind of employee now, you can't say because she was not online between 12 and 5, she was not working. Are there clear KPIs? Does she know what she needs to do? Is she delivering it at the right time? That flexibility is very important. So if there is anything about remote work, it's
who
accountability
she
and
needs to communicate to.
flexibility, right? So accountability, what do I need to do and when do I need to get it done? Flexibility, can I do it in my own way now that I'm working from home? I think I'd hold on from there. I feel like I've said a whole lot of
Yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you actually have, and quite interestingly, a major takeaway for me is the last few comments you made about accountability and flexibility. Right,
Flexibility.
it's such an important thing because the status quo working on site requires you to clock in at a particular time in the morning and clock out at a particular time in the afternoon or evening, right? So let's say
Yeah.
8 to 5 or 9 to 4 or whenever, right? And then you're expected to put in the work between that period of
That's
time. But then with this new, this new wave, this change era, this what they call it,
remote work.
new world, right?
Yeah.
And the new
The future
normal
of
where
work.
yeah, the future of work, where people are either working full remote or hybrid. HR managers might need to get a bit more flexible, right? And understand each individual's, remote working capacity. Because now that people are going to be spend more time at home, they need they're going to have more family obligations, more marital obligations at home, and there isn't a clear cut distinction between work
Home
from
and
home
work.
right now, home and work right now, because you're working from home and you're spending work time at home. So HR managers need to understand that flexibility, to understand that, oh look, the fact that Ronald didn't join the Zoom call at exactly 12 p.m. when he should have, there might have been a reason for that. And the second thing, accountability, right? I think we should get into this a bit more. Accountability, many people have recommended, oh, accountability drives productivity, right? So how, while working remotely, we need to ensure that there are specific and concrete steps or measures or tools or strategies, right, to ensure that employees are accountable to their KPIs, accountable to their deliverables, hence become productive. Which On which side of the fence do you stand? Are you Do you recommend that, yes, accountability should be spelt out, but I mean, let it be more flexible, or do you think that we should, establish rigid structures, like monitoring tools, or clocking in and clocking out remotely or something like that, to ensure that people are accountable?
Oh, interesting question. And I think that you're putting me, in a pretty difficult position because, it's a dicey situation between being pro business and being pro talent. However, I think the first
Pro
thing is
talent.
to make people, yeah. So sometimes, as an HR, especially if you're in my role is almost similar to an HR or VP role. So you are thinking about the business and then you're thinking about the people. So I think the first thing is that people love what they do, they are committed to what they do, and then there is clear communication across board. If you think that employees should still clock 8 to 5 virtually, and you think that's what's the best, well, good for you. I don't think so. I think that when people are committed to what they do, when they know the impact of not doing something and how that affects the whole thing, I think people are rational enough to act accordingly. As a matter of fact, I think that reward motivates people more than rules and regulation. I'd say that again.
Reward
I think reward
more than
motivates people more than rules and regulations. So, you're working remotely now, bring up new awards, bring up your impact awards, maybe speedy execution, things like that. And reward doesn't have to be monetary, really. Reward can be, when I mean monetary, it doesn't mean like cash. It can be a 5K shopping voucher at ShopRite, or, a Jumia delivery to maybe an employee that closed a deal, things like that. I think that reward motivate people more than rules and regulation. And I also think that when people love what they do and they see the impact of what they do, then they are committed to doing what they are supposed to do. So I don't think
and
that
rewarded
rules
for
and
it.
regulation, yeah, should come ahead of, should be the reason why people now have to do what they have to do. Yeah. Also, and just to say this, I
Also,
think because it is remote, communication is clear. And when I mean communication, I'm not talking about just manager to talent. Now I'm talking about things like round table. You don't see yourself physically as you should. So do you have things like maybe Friday round table where you talk about what goes on in the business? Maybe monthly round table where you just play virtual games and share a bottle of wine. All those team bonding activities also ensure that there's not an
and
employee
all
working
of this,
inside. Yeah, please go on.
And all of these would be virtual, right? All of
Yes,
these
yes.
things, yeah, that all these extracurricular, recreational things will be virtual, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there are people that do these things virtually. They
Okay, so
love
from
virtual games.
okay, now let's because we've talked strategies. Now let's test the validity of the strategies from your experience, right? Um, if I'm assuming that you have implemented some of these things, the
Yes.
virtual recreational activity,
Yes.
or you have either implemented or experienced implementation of things like the workstation bonus, the accountability and the flexibility with remote workflows. Would you say that they have a higher results rate, for boosting employee productivity? Do you think that they really work
Yeah, they do. So I'm going to talk about General
based
Electric
on
because I
your
work with General
experience and
Electric.
what you've been able to implement so far?
Oh, fantastic. Great. So, yeah, they do work. I'm going to talk about General Electric because I worked with General Electric before moving to Carrywise, and I'm going to talk about Carrywise. So, one, for General Electric, we have virtual roundtable every month. And literally when I was there, literally every employee look forward to the general roundtable. Why? Because your team are going to say some things or present what they had worked on over the month, and I'm going to use a particular
Mm,
illustration. Say your team is supposed to close out the deal of a turbine with Ghana, for example, and your duty as maybe the CFA, commercial finance analyst, is to ensure that the finance part of the deal is settled. If your team was not able to close that deal because you didn't do your part, you're going to feel bad. So everybody looks forward to the end of the month. So everybody does what they have to do.
yeah.
So that at the end of the month, when the regional CEO is talking, they're able to say, oh, GE Power did this, they close out this deal. GE Renewable did this, they close out this deal. So just having that roundtable was enough motivation for everybody to put in, good work over the period of the month because everybody's waiting for the last Friday of the month where they're going to have their roundtable. At Carry Wise,
Yeah. Payday.
yeah, at Carrywise, I remember that our last year end of the year party was virtual. And trust me, it was fun. It was 2 hours of laughter,
Okay.
of relishing the moments, things that happened through the year. People want shopping vouchers,
Mhm.
people want credits, and things like that. So we still experience that bonding, despite the fact that we had not come to the office in like a month or two, and we're not going to see again in like 3 weeks or a month. Yeah, so these are practical things that have worked.
Yeah, yeah, true. I actually quite agree with you. I mean, there's the popular saying that I'm sure we're all very conversant with: all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Or to be more Ibile or local, all work and no play makes Folashade a dull girl, right? So, um, uh, play and recreation and leisure are very important in ensuring that people have some sort of mental balance, emotional balance
Yeah.
as well, and that has a
And
long-term impact on their productivity. So all of these recreational methods and strategies that you have mentioned, I think that I agree that evidently they will lead to a boost in employee productivity, especially when you merge them up with the other work-based measures, mitigation measures, like the accountability thing, which leads me to another important question, right? There's a conversation around autonomy, right? And it's quite similar to flexibility, but let's emphasize that word autonomy, which is like giving more room to your employees, right? And now my question is, how much of autonomy do you think? I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of autonomy do you think you would advise HR managers that you would give and would also advise HR managers to afford or give to employees who are working remotely on a scale of 0 to 10?
I'd say 7, and I'd give my reason. I think autonomy to some extent,
Okay.
especially in your space, has to do with one, your competence, two, your self leadership abilities. So, for example, we all know that not all talents are A talents. So imagine that I have two
Yeah.
content writers at Carrywise. I have one of them is an A talent, the other person is a B talent. I know that these two content writers will write 5 blog posts from Monday to Friday, or maybe 3 blog posts and 2 carousels between Monday and Friday. For the A talent, I probably will not check in till Wednesday, right? Because I know that she can write. She knows that she has to write. She has the ability to write. And my check-in is just probably official or routine to say, hey, are you there? Are you there? Oh, I saw this blog post, or why hasn't the blog post come up? But for the big talent, I probably have to talk to our manager to say, oh, do you want to send a reminder to this person? If by Tuesday or Wednesday I've not seen a blog post, I probably want to ask the manager to say, oh, are you sure this person is okay? Does she have internet challenge? If it's a lady, hope she does not have
Yeah.
menstrual cramps. Things as minor as that are actually very important. So I'm a big fan of autonomy, depending on the talents, self-leadership abilities, and self-competence to execute without being monitored. Because for some people, you actually have to monitor them to get the best out of
Awesome.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why we're reserving the remaining 3 out of 10 for those people who like to be who have to be micro
Exactly.
to do the work.
Exactly.
Okay, interesting. We're approaching the closer stages of the session. We're in the closer stages of the session. Um, so my next question. Now we've talked about how what steps HR managers can take to solve these challenges that we have outlined, right? Now let's look at it from an employee angle. If an employee has observed that their productivity level has dropped significantly over period of time while working remotely, um, as an HR manager in the space who has interacted with employees, by way of them bringing these challenges to you, to your notice.
Is it my network or your network?
Can you hear me?
No, I missed the last two statements. I'm sorry.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, awesome. I was asking that. I was saying let's turn our attention now to looking at it from an
Employees.
employee angle. We have recommended some solutions that HR managers and companies can take, like the workstation bonus, flexibility, more autonomy, and accountability. Very important to resolving some of these challenges around remote work. Now, from an employee angle, because some of those things may not actually apply, right? So, what would you recommend as tips or helpful tips for how employees can deal with unproductivity while working remotely, and how they can boost that productivity?
Okay, great. I'm glad that you flipped the coin, because I'm sure that there are some people here that they are not exactly HRMs. So I think the first thing is to do a self-analysis, right? So I am not productive. Why? Is it because when I wake up, I spend 4 hours thinking about where to get water, where to fetch water because our tap has stopped running? Is it because
Uh,
is it
mm,
because there is no power? Is it because I actually like to talk to people when I am working? So first is analyzing the exact challenge you're facing. Why are you not productive? Like I said when I started, it can be something as minute as the chair you are sitting on, or as minute as the fact that you don't have a reading table at home. Things as minute as that, right?
mhm.
Or maybe because your parents call you early in the morning. So analyzing that problem is the first step. Then secondly, who do you connect with better? Do you connect with your HR? Do you connect with your team lead? Do you connect with both of them? Just cascading that information to say, guys, I am not active at home because our transformer has blown for 2 weeks, and my mom has said I should not switch on the gen. How can you help me? I am not productive at home because it looks like you've experienced that before. You know, yeah, I'm not productive at home because I don't like my reading space. Can I?
Transform.
I know a friend that works with an investment bank that their team, their team lead actually bought them laptop stand, like 8 of them. Their team lead ordered laptop stand and sent to them. because that they stay because they are researchers, they stay in front of the system for a long period of time, and they needed something that enhances their productivity and
Mm.
doesn't give their body pain. So, but
To
as an
push
employee, it's
on,
actually your
yeah.
exactly. So it's your duty to communicate the challenges because trust me, your HRM is thinking about 1,000 things. Your team lead is thinking about 1,000 things. But when you cascade that challenge, then if you're a people person like me, and I know people that does this, they meet up on a Friday and say, oh, let's get a co-working space and let's work together so that we get this done. So talk to two or three of your colleagues. You can also share, I know people that they do video call while they are working. They are not talking, their video is just on. Just to be able to say, hey, how do I move this account to this account? This account is not balancing. The
Mm.
confidence that there is one or two colleague on the call, instead of waiting to call and waiting to get a response, or sending a Slack message and wait to get a response.
Yeah.
The confidence that they have someone with them on the call for like 3 hours enhances them to close out on the project, close out on the deal, finish an account. But it starts from analyzing what is the challenge. Is it infrastructural? Is it systemic? Is it that you miss people and you want to connect with them? Then cascading that information and also finding things you can do yourself to encourage yourself because intrinsic motivation is really the best motivation. Yeah, that's
Intrinsic
it.
motivation is truly the best motivation. I mean, you can be offered rewards, motivational perks, recreational activities, but if I mean, and which is why a lot of companies look out for people, or hire people who actually prove that they're self
Self-driven.
motivated. So
Yes.
intrinsic motivation, and you know, which brings me to an interesting line of thought before we close and then move on to Q&A. Um, you know, HR managers have been faced with, grappling with boosting employee productivity. But employees themselves, right, also have do have a role to play in intrinsic motivation, as you have said. So do you think that, at what point do you think that there should be a middle ground where the HR managers and then the employees themselves will come together, after the employees have done some soul searching to figure out what's going wrong, why am I not performing at optimal level, and the HR managers have done some audits, performance review to say, okay, look, you're not performing at optimal level. At what point do you think, there can be a middle ground for both concerned parties to come together and say, okay, look, let's find a way to work around this? And what would you say is the best way to move forward from that situation? I mean, is it a performance review? Is it, sending in, asking what can help, from asking the employee what can help? How best can they move from that situation?
Okay, very interesting question to ask. I think one is a simultaneous thing, and I don't think someone should wait for someone to make the call, right? I don't think the HR should wait for the employee to
Okay.
make the call, or the employee should wait for the HR to make the call. It's, who notices what first, who discover what's first. Even like in the hybrid setting, there's sometimes I notice that, oh, I've not seen or heard or felt the impact of an employee over a couple of weeks, and I say, oh, what's going on in your space? Are you, a very practical illustration? I hope that my employee do not shoot me. There's a time that an employee was, looking for an apartment. And it's something that you experience in Lagos. If you are looking for an apartment, agent
Yeah.
stresses you, they take you to funny places.
Tell me
But
about it.
I mean, he didn't tell me, right? I was just getting reports from his manager that, oh, this person. I'm like, well, I think he's not an underperformer. Let me check on him. And I checked and I said, oh, boss, I did look for house, so I beg. And then I had to cascade back to the team lead and say, oh, well, and I think I even put it on the general channel. Oh, this person is looking for an apartment. This is his budget. If you have agent that is not bad, connect us and stuff. And just maybe proactive at that point instead of waiting for him to come around, literally solved the productivity issue. So I don't think any of the stakeholders should wait for each other.
Yeah.
And that's why I mentioned
Yeah.
importance of clear communication and cascading upward or downward, depending on how the
Mm.
flow is. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Key takeaway: it should be simultaneous. That coming to that
Okay.
middle ground should be simultaneous. Anyone can and should reach out first. Um,
Yes.
awesome points I mentioned, Faith. Thank you so much. I mean, I'm sure that if we could do like a review of everything, that you presented us with so many gems, so many gems. This session can actually be distilled into like a series, like an ebook series or something, where we focus on each major or highlight points that you had mentioned. So thank you very much.
Yeah,
We're going
welcome.
to move on now to Q&A. Let's see what questions some of our viewers have and what they've been asking. So if you're watching from wherever, I mean, this is remote. We're doing this virtually. So if you're watching from wherever, across the world, across the country, across Africa, send in your questions. Let's know what's bothering you, and then send in those questions using the hashtag Proten Live and hashtag LinkedIn Live, and then we'll have those questions answered right here on the show. Let's see.
Hi,
Do you?
Chinecherem. Thanks for your contribution.
Yeah, you have a fan here. Woo, woo. So guys, send in your questions. Send in your questions. Let's see. Any questions? Okay. Well, we don't seem to have questions yet. Once those questions come in, I'll be monitoring them and throw them in once we get them.
Okay.
But just do like a recap for anyone who's just joined the session. My name is Ronald. My name is Ronald Adamaha. I'm the communications manager here at Proten International, and for the last about 40 minutes, I've been speaking with Faith Emmanuel, who is the lead for people and culture at Cowrie Wise, and we've essentially been talking about how boosting employee productivity during remote work, and we've looked at it so far from the angle of we looked at it so far from the angle of the HR managers, how they can boost employee productivity during remote work, as well as from the employee angle, how you can do some soul searching, like Emmanuel, like Faith said, do some soul searching and boost your intrinsic motivation. And that's where the conversation is at so far. Hi, Chin Necherem Obasi is saying hi, Faith. Do you have any questions, Chin Necherem?
She's typing.
She's typing. So far, basically, we have looked at some of the challenges that organizations that employees might be facing. Our faith has talked about the systemic challenges, the personal challenges, the infrastructural challenges that employees are likely facing. That somehow impact their productivity while working remotely. And then we went further to recommend solutions to each of those challenges. So for infrastructural challenges, things like internet access or no internet access, as the case may be, um, um, electricity instability, and things like that. All of that can be solved by accessing a workstation, a good workstation, not business center workstation. um, a good workstation where all of these challenges are fixed, and it's an all-in-one setting. And we've also talked for systemic. We've also talked about the accountability thing. Giving some more autonomy, flexibility, and ensuring that I mean, knowing the people that you work with or that reports to you, they are A talent or they're B talent, and they will likely get the work done without being micromanaged. And then for employees, of course, you have to do some soul searching to find out what might be wrong, why has your motivation dropped, and how you can boost that motivation. And of course, we have a question here. Benga Bolome says it's a quick question, so I'll just read out the question, and then Faith, you can go ahead to answer, right?
Yes, sure.
So the question reads: in situations where employers tend to use the excuse of remote work to contact their employees at different times of the day of work related to at different times of the day for work related issues, when normally if they were at work they would have clocked out, how can that challenge be solved? So I think this question is about employers overstepping their boundaries, right?
Yeah, I
On a normal
understand.
day, I would clock out by 5 p.m. and not have to do any work related thing. But because I'm working remotely, the employees get calls from 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m. So his question essentially is, with that scenario, how can that challenge be solved?
Yeah, very practical question to ask. It's a challenge of expectations and communication. As you asked that question, I remembered one of my employees Slack. So we use Slack is our internal communication tool, and under his Slack, he has do not feel obliged to respond to this message after work hours. So he's saying, I can send you a message after work hours, but do not feel obliged to respond. You can respond the
To
next day,
respond, I
right?
see.
So, what you have to understand that because it is remote, people tend to trespass boundary, right? Because you have not seen this person in like 1 week, you just feel like you can pick up the phone and call. And then there is a part
Mm-hmm.
of communication. So, for example, I've been in a situation where an employee says, "Oh, I am more active between 8 p.m. and 12 p.m. So, anything that you think didn't get done during the day, call me between 8 p.m. and 12 a.m. I would get it done because I am active at that point." And I've had someone say, "Oh, do not call me after 6 p.m. because I'm a worker in church and I'm doing this, and this." So there's a point of understanding that because it is remote work, people are naturally, people would naturally try to overstep boundary, or people have the potential to, overstep their boundary. They might not even think that a boundary exists, but it's also your duty to
Yeah,
communicate
that's that
politely. Yeah, right. They might not think that a boundary exists, but it's your duty to
exists.
communicate politely and say, "Oh, because of this, so, 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 and so, you don't want to call and you're hearing my child crying, or you're hearing, maybe the gas cooker or a blending machine. So between this time and this time, it's my family time, right?" We had and we are in the middle of a recruitment, and we're conversing with a potential candidate. I would say, "Oh, are you available to work during the weekend?" And she said, "Oh, well, Saturday yes, Sunday no, because Sunday is me and my family time," right? And things as clear as that,
And
I
that has to
work.
be understandable.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
it has to be
So,
understandable.
it's communication
I
in
can
terms of expectations. Yeah.
Awesome. I can totally relate with that question and that scenario that he painted. I mean, during the full lockdown period, people were working, end to end, sort of, waking up 5 a.m., checking their emails and seeing that tasks have been dropped, or checking Slack and seeing task-based conversations, and then they get on it from 5 a.m. and they don't
So
end
11
until,
p.m.
till 11 p.m., 12 a.m., and then on. So okay, yeah, just to wrap up, the Chinyere has a
Contribution.
rejoinder sort of contribution to your earlier comment about recreational activities, and she says, well, instead of doing these recreational activities virtually, how about the HR manager schedules one day in a month where people come together physically at the office or at a location and take and participate in these recreational activities. I mean, considering a COVID-19 safety protocol, I don't know how advisable that would be for a company with a large workforce. But of course, where it is possible that COVID-19 safety protocols are not breached, maybe that might be something to consider, right? In order not to waste time, I'll ask. So, thank you very much, Chinechem, for that comment.
Contribution.
It's duly noted. Yes, HR managers should, where possible, try to also go physical. So, we'll round off with this question from Adejoke Adedako. And she says, "Hello, Faith and Ronald. Thanks for insightful conversation so far. The lines between working remotely and actually being off work seems to have become blurry. How do you suggest HR managers can help management and staff clarify the difference? I know that we have sort of, touched on this previously, during the conversation, but her question is even more specific. She asked, how do you suggest HR managers can help management and staff clarify the difference? So, and you talked about clear lines of communication. Do you think that it should be spelt out? That
Yes.
I mean, using the example of the guy on Slack who said, "Do not feel obliged to respond outside work hours." So yeah, so going forward, do you think that official communications should be sent saying, look, if you get an email, a work-based communication, even from the boss, from the Oga Pata Pata, you should not be obliged, outside of working hours, you should not be obliged to respond or execute. Do you think that that's something that should be taken into consideration?
Okay, if my CEO watch this, he will be wondering how I will respond to that. Because sometimes my CEO calls you after work hours and he wants you to respond. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think a large part of HR job has to do with communication, how you pass the information across. And I did joke I can connect with this question because I think it came up a couple of months ago, even at Career Barista. So it's clear communication. Oh, you are working from home today. It's totally different from today is your off day. You're working from home today means, oh, you don't have to bring yourself to the office. You don't have to go through the traffic stress and all that thing. But when I send you a Slack message, I am expecting a response in an hour or two. When I send you a mail, I'm expecting it to be acknowledged. I remember when I was at General Electric, there was a time I was working with a manager who was in the US. And she sent me a mail, and I'd seen the mail, and it was a mail that had an action point. So I just didn't feel to respond. I felt I should not just go ahead, execute the task, and come back to say, I've done this. And I think for some reasons I didn't execute the task in like 3 or 4 hours. And she says, oh, I sent you a mail 4 hours ago and you didn't acknowledge. I'm like, but it's the mail that has the task, and I'm supposed to execute the task. She's like, no, you sent me an acknowledgement mail saying you've seen this because there's no
Yeah.
way I would know that you have seen this. So it's a clear communication thing. To the
Yeah.
management, let them know that when an employee is not in the office, it doesn't mean that the employee is not working. It just means that the employee is not in the office. And for the employee, make it clear to them that your off day is not an off day, it's a work from home day. So it's very important
Awesome.
that you just emphasize. If you have to send out an internal comms, depending on the platform you use, is it email, is it Slack, is it Trello, send out that comms, with clear difference that this is what it means to work from home. You are working, but from your house or from wherever you have chosen to work from. It is not a day to go off work. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Adejoke, for that. She was very specific in how she framed the question, asking
Yes.
if there should be clear lines of communication for off work hours, and also again, once again, thank you, Faith, for providing a very apt and valid answer to that question. We have now come to the end of the Proten Live, this session where we talked about how HR managers and employees, particularly as well, can boost their productivity while working remotely. We've said that we're in a remote world now; it's the new normal, and with reports and news reports about a potential third wave of COVID-19,
We
we will
reject it.
likely be thrown into. We reject it. We reject it. But we will likely be thrown. I hate that I'm saying this, but we will likely be thrown into another lockdown period where companies would have to revert to full time remote work. And so we reject it again, but if we're thrown into that scenario, we have just talked about strategies for how we can ensure that employees all do the work, that they get remote work to work for the company, for the organization, for the establishment. And then my guest here, Faith Emmanuel, has dropped some really amazing gems, and like I said, they can be distilled into a series of ebooks or learning materials. Um, just a quick one as we wrap up. Again, my name is Ronald Adimoha, Communications Manager here at Proten International. Proten International is a leading HR consulting firm where we provide HR management solutions to organizations and individuals. If you'd like to learn more about Proten International, you can visit us at our website at www.proteninternational.com or follow us on social media platforms at Proten INTL for international. And then you can see all of our amazing work, services, and transformational projects. Um, my guest Faith Emmanuel is on all social media platforms at the Emmanuel Faith. Would you like to would you like to pronounce that in
Yeah, it's
English?
just the Emmanuel Faith. Just the
Okay,
Emmanuel Faith. Yeah, on Instagram and Twitter and on LinkedIn, Emmanuel Faith too.
the Emmanuel Faith. Awesome. I mean, most people who add a the prefix to their names, you can tell that they are popular. So they try to distinguish their name from the rest. So they say the, so you know that this is the authentic account. So always good to have you. Good to have you on board the session. We look forward to more practical and interactive sessions like this. We hope that you oblige
Thank
us.
you.
We we hope that you oblige us. Thank you once again. Chinachard says
Thank
this
you,
session was
everyone.
really enlightening. Waiting for the
Uh,
next episode on this series. Well done. Yes, yes, yes. There will be more to come. So,
Thank you.
to wrap up, thank you, everyone. Um, you'll be hearing from us in the next session. In the meantime, go follow us on social media. Follow the Emmanuel Faith. Follow at I am Ronald X on social media and follow at Proten International. Also follow Carrie Wise, please.
Yes, by all means. Just stop by our website. Thank you.
Shameless plug. All right.
Take care.
All right. Thank you very
Bye.
much. Have a good day ahead and enjoy
Yeah,
the
you too.
weather.
Yeah.